Hopefully, I'm going to speak something into existence.
Great.
By the time this comes out, I will have won my March Madness pool bracket, and I'll be $80 richer.
What are you
I
going to
hope
do
that
with
we
your
can pull
winnings?
this clip and post it next to your $80.
Yeah. In this manifesting space that we're in.
Obsessed.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with all your winnings?
With all my winnings,
Fireball shot.
I'm
Travel
going
the
to
world.
Disney World.
$80. Hey, are you going to do the Disney thing?
Yes.
You're gonna do the Disney
race? Yes. That is on my list of things to do tomorrow when I have nothing to do.
She's a Disney
Figure it out.
racer.
I'm going to do it.
Oh my gosh.
I'm going to sign up.
Okay, we're going to Disney World.
We're going to Disney World. And that's while we're in this manifesting space. Does anyone else have anything to say?
My cousin's getting married, so I'll be at that. I have a wedding
She's
to go
going to weddings.
Yeah, I actually have so many weddings. I have a wedding next week, and then I have his wedding, and then I feel like
I've never heard of this cousin wedding.
I
I feel like this is a new development.
well, it's like cousin on my dad's side, and to be fair, like him and his fiance like have been together forever, and they have a baby together, so it's just kind of like they've just kind of always been a
Formality.
thing. Yeah, for sure. But still like excited to go to a wedding. You know, love a reason to get dressed up.
For
sure.
sure.
And I just feel like weddings are so they really bring out my investigative journalism side. I'm really, really analyzing how all of the family members are interacting. I'm really seeing the generational gaps here.
It's the wedding people of it all. It's an interesting subject.
Yes, it's an interesting place to just throw all of your family members into.
High stress and alcohol.
Yes, like it's so fascinating. Anyways, so
Fun.
I'm excited.
I like seeing who leaves first.
Right.
That's always my, like, I got eyes on that.
for sure.
Which family members are part in the scene?
Mm.
Well,
I leave most
cute.
functions early.
Yeah.
Not early, but first one to go.
If there's one thing I love about the Irish, it is their goodbyes.
Me
And you will
too.
catch me doing that every time.
Me too.
I have nothing.
unfortunately, I have not an ounce of that part of Europe's blood in me, so
Right.
it is a have to go say goodbye to the entire room
Well, good for you.
situation, which is tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say goodbye to the entire room. Make sure everyone knows I'm leaving. Say goodbye twice. Actually get into a conversation with someone's aunt for about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, let me come visit in Pennsylvania. I'd love to.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
That is very you core though.
Oh, I remember one time I was at a wedding. I was in a wedding, and the groom's sisters, husbands, parents, right? Got talking to them.
Right.
And during the wedding, like that was the night before the rehearsal dinner. During the wedding, his dad comes up to me and he's like, "If you ever want to come work in Alaska, you just let me know." And I said, "Oh my God,
Hilarious.
yeah, absolutely, I'll be there." Like,
Like
absolutely,
the
yeah.
land of salmon and Sarah Palin.
Yeah, but they have one of those skipper planes.
Atticus, I'm hilarious.
I'm hilarious.
But they got one with a little hop skipper,
Yeah.
the plane.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he said, "Come on up." And like his son proposed to, her name's Hannah, on a glacier. Like, hey, it can't be all bad.
Oh,
Hannah, you cannot live in Alaska.
I don't want that.
Not even for like 6 months.
You would be so sad.
Keep her off the glaciers. I don't like that.
I don't know. I think it could be fun for a little bit.
I don't think there's
I would
enough
love it, I think.
people in Alaska for you to live up
Yeah.
there.
There's more bears than people. I could have made
She'd
that
be
back
dead
up.
because she'd be talking to the bears.
I could have fully just pulled that one out of
I
the
would
air.
be pulling a Effy, like talking to people that
You would
don't
go
exist.
mental.
I
Yeah.
would
Sure.
literally go crazy.
Yeah, it's
something
not for
about
you.
also like ice, snow, heavy places. It's so echoey because like the snow is like a sound padding situation. Do you know what I mean? Freaks me out. I don't like that.
That's such a weird thing.
I
You
love
said.
it. I love how
spooky.
quiet it
Me
is
too.
after a snow.
Absolutely.
It's
not.
spooky.
Oh, I don't like it. I don't like it.
No
I'm trying to
people
get to
and quiet.
Alaska.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sign me
In the
up.
summer. Y'all seen the proposal?
Yeah,
Exactly.
Seneca.
Sounds great.
That place looked
To the
great.
window. To the window.
Yeah, that's what be Hannah in Alaska doing her rituals with the six Betty White
Trying to manifest a human.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's get into it.
That's
Hey guys,
funny.
we're always booked, and today we're talking
That
about.
is not how we do it. Stop.
Okay.
Hey, welcome to Always Booked. I'm Olivia.
I'm Emily.
I'm Hannah.
And I'm Danny.
And today we're talking about A Study in Drowning by Ava Reid.
First impressions. I'll tell you mine.
Yeah,
The floor is yours, please.
by all means.
I did not care about this book, the story of the book, like the actual story, not the meaning behind it.
Mm.
However, I really liked the way it was written. Very like gothic. It kept me interested. I didn't care what the characters were doing, but I really liked reading it, which is very interesting, I think.
I'm aligned with that. I'm in a book hangover right now, so like anything I read is just gonna suck.
Fairytale.
But like this was really interesting and good. Like I like the premise, I like the story. It reminds me of Nosferatu. Like that is the only thing. By the time I'm ending it, I'm like, I just rewatched Nosferatu. Anyways.
Yeah, I like that. I agree. I think I told you guys that I was kind of uninterested, a little bit uninvested in the characters.
Mhm.
And then I reached the halfway point and I said, oh, okay, you know what? I think I actually am having a good time. So I liked it. I think I did enjoy it. In my head, I think I was giving it like a 3 out of 5. Just like
Fair.
it was a good book.
Yeah, I liked it. I think I liked it the whole time. Like, typically I don't like slower paced books, and this is a very slow paced book. However, it's very slow paced with a lot of introspective thoughts and themes, and even the characters themselves. I wasn't like attached to them as characters, but I did care about what they were thinking and experiencing and how I can apply it to my life, or like what learnings were there. So the whole time I was like, I really like this. Not as like a fun read. Like it wasn't fun, but it was like very thought provoking from the jump. So I was bought in.
You know what this book doesn't have, which I wish it did, was a map.
I had that exact same feeling.
Is it not just Wales? Like, is it not just England? Or like,
But I wanna
not
know,
England,
like-
but like the UK.
The different regions they're talking about, and then the bottom 100, where is that in comparison
Sure.
to like school and where she's from, and where does north and south?
Right.
That's
Where's the
fair.
line?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there could be a map. in this.
When she was talking about the bottom 100 and like the people in the north being stuck up and like people in the south, to the people in the south,
Mhm.
it was reminding me a lot of my my English friends. They would talk a lot about how if you're from the south, it's like considered you're posh. So like Cornwall, like all of that, like your accent is better or whatever. It's just more posh sounding than if you're closer to Scotland. Like Scouse accents, like all of those, I guess, are considered a little bit like looked down upon. And again, this was just from like my few English friends. So
Sure.
the other people from England probably have different opinions. I don't know, but I was like, okay, that's very interesting. That obviously but that's like when she was talking about that in this book, that's what it reminded me of that. But it's flipped in this book.
Yeah.
Then
Before we get any further into this, let us just say we are in Texas.
We are going to try to say these words
We're
as
gonna-
best as we can. And like, we're sorry.
I think it's also worth noting, I listened to it. Emily, you read it?
I read it with my eyeballs.
I read it with my ears.
Yeah.
me as well, and I wish I read it with my eyeballs.
Yeah.
I
So-
liked the experience of reading with my ears. However, because the words are like so foreign,
Yeah,
Right.
they did not stick in here.
Right.
for sure.
So like I will try with the utmost respect to the story and the literature
Like even
and the
like,
Welsh language, like everything. I'm sorry.
right. No, and even like looking through the book and like looking at the words that I was listening to, I wouldn't be able
They
to,
don't
I
match
would
up.
not be able to point them
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Like Yantu, when you started spelling it with an I, and I said,
That's Yantu.
absolutely not.
Yeah, I was like, Iantos. That's how I said it.
and that's so fair.
Whoa.
in my head.
valid.
Right.
I'm glad I didn't
Absolutely
even
valid.
look.
right.
Right.
Gosh.
On that
Yeah.
note, we'll be trying.
Yeah.
Also, before we get into it, trigger warnings
For
So many.
everything.
for reading the book and listening to this episode because we'll be talking about them. There are so
Mhm.
many.
Yes. Sexual assault.
Sexual assault, mental illness, abuse from parents, suicidal thoughts. There are a lot. So
Drugs.
yeah, drug use, drug abuse.
Yeah.
Look up the list if you would like before getting into
Yeah.
this.
But really great conversation around those things.
Very good.
So, and it's not all on page. Like, it's not on page. it's like discussion of
Mhm.
said things. So
This book, it's obviously making a bigger point than the story of these people. The themes and core concepts: misogyny and sexism, mental health and trauma, power and abuse, agency and self-discovery, dark academia and fantasy elements, which I definitely want to get into the fantasy of it all because it's very different. And the power of stories. All themes in this book.
my gosh. So truth be told, I was finishing this book as I was driving to Olivia's house today. And I was actually thinking about the like power of stories and like fairy tales in general, because she makes a point about you can really believe anything when you're scared. And I thought that was crazy because like, yeah. And then about how like this story around the fairy king was built from this book, and it's really just like this girl's life. And I'm thinking about like all these folk tales that we grow up with. I couldn't think of any examples at the time because I was just like iterating on this thought. But like all the tales that we might have grown up with, and like what stories did those just like originate from? Like where'd that all come from?
And to your point, the power of stories and fear, and how like your human brain wants to logic or latch onto something to explain something, whether it makes sense or not, like, and how that creates different folklore and even mental illness, like all this other stuff. Yeah. There was a quote in the book, and it says, "How terrible to navigate the world without a story to comfort you." And I think it's that, like, whether true or false, a story to comfort you.
Right, because you're going to latch on to a narrative that makes sense and that rationalizes away like these unwelcome feelings. And that's why you get to like, so many people are like, I don't want to process like even abuse because it's like, those are icky feelings I don't want to have to deal with. So I'm going to make excuses, you know?
And sometimes your brain does it unknowingly too, like unconscious decisions that your brain makes to protect yourself from trauma and those things.
And you can't blame anyone because like,
it's survival.
Exactly. And that was the thing. What'd we say her name was? Ruth. At the end, she was talking about like bravery, and she's like, honestly, one of the bravest things you can do is survive sometimes. I was like, yeah.
The quote is, I wrote it down too: "You don't have to take up a sword. Survival is bravery too."
Don't come into this thinking you get like this really strong female main character, because I think, especially with books that we read, we're so used to just like a female main character coming in and she's kind of a baddie.
Yeah.
And she runs this, and like she's got all this power. Like we were talking about Aelin earlier. Like she rocks. But this is such a different take on a female main character than what we usually read. And I really liked that.
Yeah, it was refreshing.
Yeah.
And even that description, because I remember you told me that once I had already, like I was halfway through the book and you hadn't started it yet.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, I heard that the main character is like people describe her as weak or whatever. And I couldn't say in that moment. I was like, she's different. In no way would I describe her as weak. Like she doesn't have a sword to the point, and she's not fighting people, and she's not like very confrontational in your face, but she is surviving so much, and surviving in a very sexist, misogynistic culture in school and abuse and all these things. Like never would I call this main character weak.
Yeah.
In any way, but strength in a different way.
Right.
For sure.
Which I think is also so important to be represented.
Yeah.
You know, it's just not something we see very often. So I really appreciated that.
So Effy, the main character.
Yeah.
What's her full name?
Euphemia.
They call her Effy. She is at university studying architecture, but her passion is like literature. But she is a woman, so she's not allowed to go to school for literature. She has to go for engineering instead. And she's like, well, I want to learn, so I guess I'll go for engineering. Which really, you learn at the beginning, so it sets up, okay, we're living in like a very sexist situation here. The misogyny is off the charts.
It's funny. They don't want women to learn or to like share their stories, but then they can build your buildings.
Correct. But what's more powerful? What's more dangerous?
Exactly.
Women sharing their stories.
Period.
Yeah.
Period.
That really is.
Yeah.
That really is at the end of the day, because you know that quote that has always been around of like, winners write history.
Yeah.
That's kind of like what we're saying here. And even I remember the part where she was really offended when she's meeting Preston and he's like, I'm not a writer. I just like,
Because he's in the literary program.
right.
Yeah.
She's like, what do you mean? You're not like telling these stories essentially. So,
Which also folded into that. She's like, you're so privileged and annoying. Like, I would do anything to be in this program, and you're in it and you don't give a rip.
right.
Like, how dare you?
Yeah. Like
And she was
he
right.
has the opportunity. He's choosing not to use his voice. And
Right.
she doesn't get that choice even.
So she is obsessed. Effy is obsessed with this fictional story. How do we say it again?
Angahard.
Anchorhard.
Enghard.
Enghard. Yeah, I was like,
Enghard.
it's more.
Yeah.
Enghard. She is obsessed with this fictional work. And it's a very popular author. Like, everybody is aware of his works. He's very popular with women specifically. Like,
He's been dead for 6 months at this time.
some people look down on the stories because, in my opinion, it seemed like because women are the main audience and women loved these stories, they discounted them as well because women were reading them rather than men. She's talking to a professor trying to get books out of the library, and they're like, oh, they're all gone. They've already been checked out. She's like, I want them, but the literary students have them. And then when she gets to the island or whatever, she meets Preston, who has checked out all of the book, which is how they become together. Just giving more context on the story.
For
Yeah.
sure.
It's interesting that they let women read.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, they let them into school, so they'd have to.
That's true. You got to read your textbooks.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They're fine with them reading, I guess, just not talking.
I keep it to yourself.
Or
Yeah.
sharing.
Actually, something that I thought was so fun was the premise of the book as a whole with like her and Preston
Mm-hmm.
in the sense that like they're trying to disprove that this guy wrote this.
Yeah, that was a nice little twist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all I could think about was The Great Gatsby and
Mhm,
how
mhm.
everyone is like, F. Scott Fitzgerald's wife wrote this and he took the credit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only thing I could think about. And I was like, what if?
Yeah, and it builds on that misogyny and what women were allowed and not allowed to do, which was basically everything. Not
Right.
allowed to do anything.
Right.
But also you have to see Effy like go through her journey of her beliefs and dismantling her thoughts of someone she like looked up to and thought was a hero as well. She was so offended when Preston suggested that he didn't write it.
Right. Hey, in The Fall of a Hero,
Right. Tough.
that is such a hard thing to reconcile,
Yeah.
especially someone who were like, oh my God, they did such good things. They made such great strides for women. Just
Turns out he sucks and hates women.
Right. And I appreciate Preston, like his consistency as a character, remaining like he was the true skeptic of them too.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like she really was like this romantic. She wanted all this to be real and really leaned on these stories like in a very severe almost kind of way.
Yeah.
And he was just like, have you ever considered these are all a lie, you know? And he was really trying, but he never made her feel dumb, I felt like.
Correct,
he always
yeah.
heard her out and then just presented like a different perspective of what maybe the narrative that has been fed to her, not the one that came from her earnest like wanting. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I thought that was a very interesting distinction.
I thought it was really important too, because you made a point earlier. As you're reading, you're kind of like, is magic real in this? Like, is this a fantasy or is it just her mental illness and trauma that is making magic real? Or is it actually real? Like, as you read through the entire story, you're questioning that.
well, so is she. Like
And
I
so is
remember
she.
getting to the point when she's like, is the fairy king real? Like, am I truly like, is this a mind over matter situation? But
Because she's
then
been
I
told that
started-
her whole life too.
Yes, but then I started thinking about, I'm like, no, she literally doesn't have a finger.
Right.
And so I'm
Yeah.
like, you have a very true, like, marked
Mm-hmm.
physical piece of evidence that this happened to you. And so she's like, ah,
But even in that, of her like going back and forth and questioning and even doing that out loud to Preston, to your point, Preston never like made her feel stupid or acted like she was crazy. Like he fully embraced who she was and like met her at every place that she was,
yeah,
which is so uncommon, especially in those sort of situations.
right. There was a patience there.
Yeah.
And like,
empathy.
to be fair, he also never once was like, I know truth. He was constantly seeking truth, which I really liked, because you had one character who was like, I don't know what's real and what's not. And he's like, I want to know what's real. Like, we're going to get there together and we're going to seek out truth. And he's just asking questions. He's never demeaning. He was a great depiction.
Yeah, he's a good one.
The shepherd guy gave her those stones.
Yeah.
So when he gave her those, I was like, okay, I think
The
this is real.
hagstones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could look through.
I thought it was real too, but then it was like,
What?
but
You
did
don't
he
know.
actually?
Yeah. Did she just
Did she just think all that happened?
Oh,
Like,
right.
I don't know.
hallucinated him?
Correct. Yeah, because you just don't know.
Right. Well, I'm thinking like even the South, when they talk about the drowning, the South, the lower 100, is that what it is?
Bottom 100.
Bottom 100. Well, when they talk about the drowning, I'm like, that had to be like a really traumatic thing that happened obviously centuries before. But yeah, you would develop this entire belief system. And I also think of like, that's probably how I would feel it, like going into any other culture. Because I was in a class once, and this is the story that like sticks with me all the time. It was an anthropology class. And there's this group of women in Brazil who, like, when they would have babies, they would deem right then and there if this child was strong enough to survive. And so then they'd call them angel babies, because then they would just like go lay them out if they didn't deem them strong enough to survive.
So they would
And
just like die.
And these mothers would never form an attachment with their kids, when in reality, like, they were just a little malnourished. So you need like sugar water and like XYZ. But like, they believed like these babies aren't strong enough, so we're just going to offer them up. So I think of like me as an outsider going in, I'm like, this doesn't look right. But like in their context, it's like, no, this is the way of life. So I think of Preston like coming into like the lower 100s or the bottom 100, the freak
Down there.
And he's like, none of this is right, but it's just not his lived experience.
Yeah.
And so she's aligned and she gets it. She understands like the magic system. I don't know.
I wish we had more information with like the history of the drowning, and
which I think there's another book. So I think you might probably get that in there.
yeah.
But
You
I
did
thought that
get
was
some of
interesting.
the lore.
Yeah. I just wanted more
Yeah.
in the warfare between the two classes of people.
The warfare between the two classes, I think, is important to dive into in the next book as well. And because, I mean, Preston and I can't remember what his race of people are called.
Yeah.
Argonians.
He talks about them getting colonized.
Right. Like, I feel like that needs to be developed a little bit more too. Maybe because there's so many important topics. It's like, we can't dive into everything, but I'm like, yeah, that is huge as well.
Yeah.
The colonization of it all, like
But they
the way that
covered-
they're treated.
And he's both.
He's both.
Yeah.
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 I loved Preston's story as well about his dad. And like whenever you learn about his dad drowning essentially
Yeah.
in his own mind
Yeah.
was like, that was, I thought, another clever way, obviously devastating, but a very like interesting way that she would even pull in the drowning
I agree.
aspect of that. But yeah, so interesting.
And really, that's what I felt like the whole book was about. Like, obviously, there's the physical drowning, but as you read it, like, this is a study of drowning in your mind.
Yeah.
Whether it's him or trauma or mental illness or whatever, like, it's drowning to your thoughts.
Yeah.
That's what the whole book
And
is
I
about.
almost feel like, sorry,
Oh, you're fine.
I almost feel like everyone can relate to that, because I don't know that there's a person on earth that hasn't had a moment where I'm like, I am spiraling. I cannot get out of my head.
Yeah.
And so I feel like even if you haven't been through the kind of trauma that she's kind of like making allegories for, you can still experience this. Like, I am so in my head.
I was gonna say to your women in Brazil point, when Effy talks to her mom and she shares her story of her mom leaving her out in the cold,
Yeah.
it's kind of like that parallel as well, of like her mom doing the best that she thought she was doing for her kid, and then Preston saying, that's messed up, no one should leave their child in the cold, like what are you
Right.
talking about? Stuff like that I think was also a really interesting point as well. But also like her mom's point, who like she's like objectively awful to her,
Right.
but I
Yeah.
think she's also just behaving in a way and like drowning in the culture and like the society, you know, like the constructs that she's also been a victim of. So it's just really interesting. The book had so many layers to it, which I really enjoyed.
Even like it was much darker than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
But I appreciated it and the topics that it touches on. But like, it was darker. Even like when they're setting up at the beginning, she is recalling her sexual assault from her professor, and that really lingers. That one experience and others, but that one like is throughout the entire book.
I actually had kind of a question about that because in the beginning it was depicted as like sexual assault. And towards the end, she's talking to Preston and it was almost depicted as consensual.
I didn't get it as consensual at all, except when she was trying to rationalize to herself. The only time I got that was her thinking to herself, was this consensual? Was this my fault? The other people say that I did, but I don't think it was ever painted as factually consensual.
I was listening to it very quickly.
You're on like 3.5.
Yeah. Probably when she said she just laid there or something.
Yeah,
That's what
she's
she
like,
said that?
we never like slept together.
They did
we
other
did other
things.
things.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think that was the phrasing that like.
I think she was just saying they didn't have sex.
Okay.
I think that was the only point of saying that.
Yeah. Hey, also another bonus point to Preston being like, hey, I have heard I'm not going to sleep with you because I want you to trust me.
I don't want to
essentially.
be another man.
I don't
like that in
want
your
to.
life.
Yeah.
No, that was so good.
That's a good man.
Yeah. Like thoughtful, aware.
Yeah.
Correct. What people should be.
Right. Sure.
What men should be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I'm glad Preston wasn't another layer of like lessons. We really were reading this story through Effy's experiences.
Do you guys know who I was picturing the whole time? As these people?
Always.
I was picturing Daisy Edgar Jones as Effy, which I feel like she even kind of has the audiobook. It's a British girl and like a Scottish guy. And she even talks like the British girl. So I feel like it'd be perfect. And then as Preston, he's too old now, but I was picturing Richard Madden.
Yeah. I could see that. Like young.
Yeah, younger.
Like Game of Thrones season 1.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That Richard Madden. Yep. And that's Preston.
No,
and
I'm
he
with you.
he's not British. Or he's Scottish. Yeah.
So it fits.
Yeah.
Yum.
I'm into that for you. That was good. I like him.
Yeah.
We do.
Okay, but then she also re-experiences. Well, I think the thread of her assault trauma continues because she continues to experience assault or situations where she feels unsafe. 1, because of trauma, and 2, because of the men were unsafe.
Right.
Which I think is reality for a lot of people. Like, can happen to you, and then you go through life and people continue to be unsafe or assault you. Like, that is very normal for life.
Yeah.
It's not okay, but it's very normal for how a lot of people live life.
It also skews self-perception.
100%.
There becomes an acceptance of like, this is how I'm treated.
Yeah.
Versus
Sometimes.
This is how the way life is.
This is how life is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Which
it's
If
your
someone's
normal.
not showing you that there can be other ways.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyways.
Which is a way of surviving as
Yeah.
well.
Mhm.
Just becoming okay with whatever it is.
However, in Effie's case, she's in the car. Well, first she's in the restaurant, and what's the guy? How do you say his name again? Yanto. Sorry, I keep picturing the I as well. I'm like, how do I say this?
Yeah, I'm
Yantos.
picturing like Greek.
Yeah, is like
Yantos.
coming on to her in the restaurant.
Yeah.
And then she already feels like, weird vibes. Now I'm alone
Right.
in a car with him, and I would
Mhm.
literally rather jump out of this car than be with this man, which I also felt was like a growth moment for her too, though.
Agree.
Like even removing
Removing
herself from the situation was like a huge, big moment.
Yeah.
Even though it was obviously unsafe, it was just
Yeah. She's very uncomfortable around any man,
yeah.
Yeah.
threat or no threat.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, most of them are threats for her.
I think that's the
Right.
default. Yeah, assume all are threat until
Sure. Yeah.
they're not. For sure.
Do love that she sticks up for herself at the end of the story
Yeah.
and demands that they fire the professor that assaulted her
Yeah.
Yeah.
to get the story.
Yeah, and she says it's for like other women as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, which is so good. Her character growth is really good. But then also at the end, it speaks to like how the system, she had change, but like the system is not going to change in a day because they uncover this. They have all the evidence. They present it and they're like, well, you guys, it's just your word. Like, we have to prove that what you're saying is true and that a woman actually did write this and blah, blah, blah. Basically, nothing is changing.
Right.
Even though all of this has changed in your world and your experience, the system is not changing. And I'm sure they'll explore that in book 2. But I thought that was interesting. And also, unfortunately, reality.
Right.
Can we get into the book of it all?
The book in the book?
The book in the book.
Yeah.
Because I think that was probably one of my favorite parts of this whole thing is coming to the understanding with the characters, Preston and Effy, that like, hey, not only did a man not steal this from a man, this man stole it from his wife, this book from his wife, and then like erased her name from it, essentially.
Who was also a minor that he preyed upon to become his wife.
Absolutely.
Many, many layers.
Absolutely.
Her parents sold her.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, actually, I feel really sick about that.
Yeah. And I think that is kind of the feeling of the book, though.
Yeah.
Like, you do kind of, you feel unwell.
Yeah. Because it's extreme, but it's not.
It's not.
When they find those pictures of her and she was like, she
I
looks like my
hated
age or
that.
younger.
I hated that.
I was like, nauseous almost.
know.
I was
Yeah.
like,
The way
I don't
she's-
want to read this stuff. Just stop explaining what the pictures look like. I didn't like them.
I didn't like that either. The way they were describing it, I was like, she sounds like she's dead laying here. And I was like,
well.
sure enough, probably felt it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Didn't sit well with me at all.
Yeah, it made me uncomfy,
Yeah. Good.
which is good.
Good.
Right.
Then I wonder if like the Fairy King, because like the way Ruth is describing the Fairy King becoming her husband essentially was that it was like a slow process. Granted, it was like just a few weeks, but she could like begin to see him turn into this monster essentially. And that is kind of how, that is the word used to describe like predators and whatnot. They are monsters. So this rationalization and then like her son also becoming this monster. I'm just curious if anyone else had like any other thoughts on the Fairy King. Because I was like, they're becoming this monster.
And like what he represents or like.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something else I want more information on is the Fairy King.
I don't know that you're meant to have more information on him.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I don't want it.
Yeah,
Right.
which is fair.
Do you think the Fairy King is only like showing up one person at a time? Or do you think like there are multiple?
I guess I assumed one at a time because it's
Yeah.
like host at a time,
Yeah.
but I didn't think about it further than that.
Fair enough. He was just an interesting character to never be like fully there until like the end.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously an allegory for other things.
Right.
So
Like, I know that they confirm that the Fairy King is real.
I know. I know.
But I'm like, is
Is
he?
he?
Yeah.
I'm with you.
And not
Same.
in like I'm not like contradicting the story.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe it's meant to be written that way. Like you confirm he's real, but like, what is it? Is it actually?
Right.
I don't know.
Me neither.
Or is it just that ethereal space of what it could represent, who it represented to her, and what it can
Right.
represent in reality? I don't
Yeah.
know. It's a very thought-provoking book.
Very.
I could probably read it again, honestly. I don't want to because it wasn't like a fun read,
Yeah.
but I could read it again.
And I think it's actually a really good book for discussion, honestly. Like
Oh, yeah.
this would be a really great book club book for other groups. It was our book club book. But it's one that definitely warrants discussion.
Mhm.
I wouldn't want to read it by myself.
Yeah.
It was very like, I don't know if poetic is the right word, but there were a lot of quotes and statements made
Agree.
that were very big and thought-provoking. One that I wrote down, and I think most women can relate to it, but I was a woman when it was convenient to blame me, and a girl when they wanted to use me. I will love you to ruination.
Yep.
That in itself, I was like, and then at one point in the book, I will love you to ruination, and then she says, yours or mine. And I was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done. Because exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly that.
And I think he didn't say anything, right?
Right.
She asked him.
Right.
But in the story, that's flipped.
Yes.
Right.
Is
Is
this
this a
just
rat?
a duology? Do we know?
I don't know.
I don't. There's a second one that's like theory
Ethereal Dreaming
and dream.
is the next one. I think it comes out this year.
Oh, okay. So
This was another quote that I thought was so good. It's Preston talking about it. I think after he shares about his dad and how he passes away and his trauma, he said, anything can be taken from you at any moment. Even the past isn't guaranteed. You can lose that too, slowly, like water eating away at stone. I hate that.
Yeah.
Personally, I hate it.
yeah.
And also like it. Because when you think about it, like, you think about anything can be taken from you, your house, your friends, people that are alive, but thinking like your past can be taken away,
Right.
can be erased. This
Mhm.
woman wrote this book and her experiences. It was taken and erased. He can't remember everything about his dad. It was just too much.
Yeah.
Aelid.
Right. There's too many good things
Yeah.
in this book that I could sit and like think on for hours. And they're uncomfortable things.
Mhm.
I
They're-
like that.
There was a quote that I forgot to write down when I was reading it, but it's when
Mhm.
Yantu?
Yantu is talking to Effy, and he's like, I don't know what kind of woman you are. I haven't been able to figure it out. He's like, you're either this or that. And one of
Yeah.
them was like a siren, and the other one was
Right.
something
I'm with
else.
you.
Yeah, but it's stupid now because can't remember.
Was it like
but-
slutty or stupid?
Yeah,
essentially?
it was
Yeah.
essentially that.
Yeah.
Just putting her in like one
Yeah.
or two boxes.
Right. Because that's where women fit.
For sure. Because men are stupid. No kidding.
Loved was when they're laying in bed and like he's like, I'll just stay, and he's speaking Welsh to her,
Yeah,
or not Welsh, but his language.
His language,
Yeah.
yes.
And he's like telling them all what they mean.
Argonthian or whatever.
Yeah.
I love
And
that.
she's like, I like it when he talks like that.
Yeah.
Right. Me too, girl.
And then I think it's just her realizing that also all of her relationships with men don't have to end one of two ways, you
Yeah.
know? And I think he is has such great traits that help her realize that, you know, everything
Yeah.
about him really complemented her strengths, but also, you know, protected her from all of the traumas of her past as well,
Yeah.
which was really sweet.
And
I
helped
really
her,
liked hers.
view
Yeah.
men differently, or her relationship with men differently.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It was spooky a lot of times.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Ugh, I was so spooked. I
When
was
they
home
were-
alone listening, and when they were in the car and she jumped out, I was not feeling good.
right. Like that whole scene of like them in the restaurant and then in the car.
There's
I was
no
like,
mirrors.
I am very spooked. Like it was just the tone
Mhm.
was so creepy. And then also I remember I texted you. I was like, yeah, I was painting and I was looking behind my shoulder
Right.
a couple times. It was when they're getting ready for the storm and Yantu is like chaining down the trees
Oh,
or
I
something.
don't like that.
I was
yeah,
like,
I didn't like that.
I don't like what's going on right now.
yeah.
Something
It was all very Wuthering Heights to me.
Yeah.
the severe weather aspect of it all was also something I was not about. Like at the end scene when like the house is flooding
Mm-hmm.
and then it's like wind and rain and all that stuff, and then they're like having this conversation. I didn't like that.
Right. 'cause
I
it's-
was
it's
stressed.
chaotic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't like that. I didn't
I
like
can't find the quote. I'm looking for it, but it's when they're talking about the drowning
Mhm.
originally, and they're like, people talk about the drowning like it happened and it was instantaneous and like it was just overnight. But no, what people don't realize is that every year the season got a little bit wetter,
Mhm.
and it happened over like centuries, and then you turn around and you don't realize what you've done.
Mhm.
And I was like, that is such a good reminder, because he also brings up the like boiling frog
Yeah,
metaphor as
exactly.
well. And I'm like, yeah,
Exactly.
I thought that was such a good metaphor for this as well.
And for like life, because I think a lot of times we think that like if something crazy is going to happen, it'll happen overnight. We'll see it. We'll realize
Right.
that's not how it works.
Mm-mm.
It's every day. It's every minute. It's slowly over time.
Right.
Mhm.
Things change until it's too late and you didn't pay attention to.
Right. And so that's why, like, when she stands up for herself at the end, like, yeah, it's not going to change everything overnight,
Mhm.
because they deny her, right? Or like they don't
don't
fire
deny-
him, right?
They do fire him, right?
They
they do?
cut a deal where
Okay.
it was because of the book
Mm-hmm.
that they wouldn't. She like basically said that she would take her book somewhere else if this didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Got it.
But they're like, yeah, you have to disprove this. We have to have other people study and all.
I
this
think
sort of
they
stuff.
said they had to bring it before men.
they did.
Yeah.
That's changing thing. You're not changing everything overnight,
Mhm.
but you're taking one step in the right direction.
The importance of growth for yourself, of sharing your story,
Yep.
of fighting for what you know is right, whether it changes at all, whether you see the change ever or not. It's a slow change. And every voice and representation and moment matters for things to change.
Amen.
Thank
Period.
you, Effie.
Are we going to read the second one?
No.
I will, yeah.
Eventually, yeah.
I'll read it. I'll read it at the same time everyone else does. Because I can't read that alone.
You're
no,
about to-
and
you're
I
about
agree. That is like a book read.
Oh,
a
yeah.
book club read.
For sure.
Or friends or whatever.
For sure.
Definitely.
Well, I would just like to say I recommend everyone reading it. It's
Yeah,
so
I
good.
agree.
It talks about such good things. Yeah. And it's kind of confusing, so everyone should read it. Let's have
Right.
discourse. Let's engage
Help
in conversation.
us understand this.
I think it's really
Yeah.
meant to be written that way too, which makes
Right.
it even more thoughtful. It makes me appreciate it more.
I
Agreed.
agree. She really did something with this.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's really good. Speaking of book club, we talked about having a Fable account potentially. Are you guys on
Ooh.
Fable?
No, I'm not.
It's
I
like an
have a Fable
online
account.
book club situation. But
Mhm.
It's more than that too. But because obviously we have our own book club, but there are so many people that don't, and so many people in our community that would love to be part of our book club. So we were thinking it could be fun to have a Fable account
Yeah.
and like put our book club book on there. Especially like I think about this book, I'm like, we could read through it like whatever, chapter
Yeah.
chunks at a time and have discussion, or just like have a discussion at the end. I don't know. It sounds kind of fun to me.
Yeah, I like
Yeah,
that.
I'm into that. Let us know if you're into that.
Yeah.
We'd be into it.
Or
If
maybe
you would
we'll
like to
have
join
already
it.
set it up, so look for it.
Yeah. If so, if we made that decision, there will be a link
Yeah.
for you to join because we'd love to talk books and hear your thoughts too.
Yeah.
It's true. We love, especially books like this. It's so nice to gain perspectives because we hang out all the time. We could become an echo chamber and not know it. So,
Mhm.
like, we'd love to
Exactly.
hear everyone else's perspectives and hear your takes.
We're excited. It's Indie Bookstore Day, April 26th, and hosted by the American Booksellers Association. And it's really cool. They have obviously however many indie bookstores across America are, some of them are participating in the day, and they have events or just like book crawls, which is so
Mhm.
cute. So you should definitely check it out. Is it on their website? Will we link it?
Yeah, we'll
For
link
everyone.
it.
So you can find your indie bookstore near you. We'll be participating, of course, with our people, our best friends at Tab or Talking Animals in Grapevine, Texas. So if you want to join us, you're welcome to if you're local. But yeah, there are so many amazing indie bookstores in the DF Dub as well. So
Also so exciting to think about all of us all over on April 26th, just like celebrating books at indie bookstores, whether we're
Yeah.
together or not. I don't know. I like the synergy of it
it's
all.
so
Me
cool.
too.
Yeah, I think it's such a great thing. And you also said, I think in the last episode, that a lot of bookstores are owned by women, which is
Yeah.
just so fun and important. And also our episode today, it was about literally women's stories being so important.
Yeah.
And women championing other women's stories by having bookstores and, you know, hosting a day like this is really fun. So we want to see it.
Well, thanks for hanging out with us, guys.
Yeah.
See you next time.
Love ya.
Get booked.
Get booked.